So the Enterprise continues to cruise along with its brand new crew of Picard and everybody. And, well, they have to go to this planet, Haven, for some mission. I forget why, because it didn't seem the actual story that was going to happen was expected. So they're arriving there to this planet, and they send a call to Riker, who's busy watching porn in his cabin. I mean, look, you think he was just going to sit back and watch those girls play harps? But he gets interrupted and has to go to the transporter room. And suddenly this strange box with a face on it that, well, of course, it's a guy with face painted silver sticking through it. No, really, that's what it was. And delivers a message that Deanna's wedding is due. The announcement has happened. And Deanna's like, oh no. And Riker's like, what the hell? It's like she knew about this. They say they were betrothed at some point. You know, it's their cultures and what have you. And just, I don't know, it slipped her mind and never told him. So he's not happy about it, you know, but what are you going to do? So this is the episode that introduces Majel Barrett in the role of Lwaxana Troi, and became a regular recurring character. And of course, her, you know, flirting with Picard, despite him not being interested at all. But, you know, plus it solidifies, I mean, it was pretty obvious by now, from the get-go about the romance that was always there and eventually comes to full fruition later on between Riker and Troi. Of course, they were based on Decker and Ilya, yeah, you know, the bald lady from Motion Picture, which was supposed to be a pilot for a new series. Basically, what you see, certainly in the first season of Next Generation, is pretty much what that Star Trek series would have been had Star Wars not be so popular. So anyway, so that's the deal. And a lot of it is played for laughs. A lot of it is just the soap opera elements of it. The guy that she's betrothed to, you know, I got the feeling he comes in and she says, oh, I'm not what he expected. Like he's disappointed or whatever. Later on, he tells her, no, you're really beautiful. It's just I've been having these dreams about this mysterious woman, and I thought it was your mental projections into my dreams. So he was expecting this blonde woman that he's an artist, and he drew all these portraits of her and all this sort of stuff. Of course, if the show were done today, it would be he really wanted to be with a man. But, you know, so anyway, so that's the deal. And later on, the Planet Haven contacts the Enterprise and says, hey, this Torellian ship is appearing. And they're like, a Torellian ship? So the Torellians were a race of people who fought a war with themselves, and bioweapons were utilized, and it basically wiped out their whole race. And so now there's a few survivors on this ship. The problem is they're all infected, and they're a danger to everybody. So initially they arrive saying, hey, we want asylum. We'll just, an isolated island will do. But of course, you know, Haven's like, hell no. But as it turns out, guess who's on that ship? Yes, it's the dream girl of Troy's fiance. And it turns out, besides art, his other passion is medicine. And once he sees who's on there, he's already fashioned his plan to beam over to the ship and try to figure out a cure for their ailment. And so he does, and he goes over there, and it turns out she's an artist too, so she has drawings of him all over the place. And but what's kind of creepy is that everybody on the ship is like seemingly in love with him too. It's like, be careful what you wish for. So hey, it all works out. Troy didn't want to get married, but part of the thing was Riker, he's upset, and they're having a dinner, and the parents are embarrassing everybody, especially Troy. She loses it, and Data's just all fascinated. So there's these attempts at comedy. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But Riker is frustrated, and he leaves. Goes to the holodeck on some planet with the sunset and everything. And Deanna shows up, and she's like, "Oh, you're thinking we're not going to be an item anymore?" And he's like, Well, yeah, you're getting married. And she's like, "Well, it is insinuate, you could be my side action." I mean, what the hell? And he says, "Oh, you humans, That's what I took from it." And then what's his name comes in and says, "Hey guys," and he's like, "Hey, whatever," because he's all in love with this dream girl he had, who turns out to be real. Didn't know she was real at the time, but still didn't seem to have any problem with, "Hey, look, if you two want to get it on the side, I'm not gonna be a problem about that." Jeez. So anyway, it all works out, because he wants to go on the leper ship, which means he's now infected. So he'd better be a really great doctor to cure that. Otherwise, they're just going to be floating around on that ship. Yeah. Wonder whatever became of him. I guess it doesn't matter. So, with the big goodbye, they ended the series prematurely. No, this was a piece of the action episode, which you can utilize props and stuff for detective shows and mobsters and whatnot. And it's a significant episode for several things, and it introduces the Dixon Hill stories that Picard is a fan of, and you also see Picard kind of loosen up here, and but it's also more significant is that it pretty much solidifies, this ongoing attraction between him and Dr. Crusher, which never pays off. Yeah, I know. Picard season 3, yeah, well, okay. But it's kind of a shame that they never really resolved that. Well, it could have been interesting. But anyway, unlike Riker and Troy, which they pretty much did, even though the show ends with her and Worf together, and then the movies followed up on it and said, no, she went back to Riker and that sort of thing. But anyway, it was an interesting a take on it. Explores the holodeck. This is supposed to be a holodeck that's been refurbished, apparently, and Picard is trying to learn this insectoid language for this nasty, rotten race that are just complete a-holes. And you have to get their language exactly right, or they don't want to talk to you. And whatever. That's just the way it is. That's the thing. And he's been working at it for a long time, and Troy says, you need to take a break. So he's got time off, so he goes and does this. And the one thing about it is, once he looks around and he sees the whole Dixon Hill world created in it, is that he seems greatly overwhelmed by it. And certainly it's his favorite character and all that sort of stuff. But it's like he's never been in the holodeck before or something. He says, and there were automobiles. And I was like, well, yeah. So, I don't know. But the problem with this, and just for this episode, it's fine if it had ended here, or if they had come up with, I'm sure they probably have some dialogue in later episodes, I'm guessing. But still, ultimately what happens is, the nasty insect people had this brutal scan that scans the Enterprise, messes with the program, and so the guys who go into the Dixon Hill, the fantasy world, get stuck in it. And one of them gets shot. It starts bleeding on the floor. So, boy, once something like that happens, it's like, oh, crap, I didn't think that could happen. You would never go back to the holodeck again. Unless, of course, they're all addicted to it, which they deal with in later episodes, which was pretty good. But but as far as the dangers of it and stuff like that, once it's like that, you could die. I went to go play a video game and it killed me. Boy, it's like literally going into the Matrix. You don't want to do that. So seems like Picard. All right, remove it. You just have to get used to the jacuzzi for your vacations. So that would be it. Because it's one of those things where I'm always referring to like the transporter being the power of God, and that's kind of a plot over Star Trek. So this is one for, but the show's good. And you just have to ignore it. But really, individual characters said, it'll never happen again. But others would, no, thank you. So what are you going to do? For this episode in and of itself, everything's fine. It plays out well. But once again, the relying on data for the comic relief, especially in these early episodes, more times than not doesn't land. In fact, it probably did a little better in the previous episode with the whole marriage planning and everything than here. And it's like, but all in all, worked out. And rewatching these episodes, because I've always said I didn't care for the first 2 seasons of Next Generation. And I thought it was rather a weak start and all that sort of thing. And in later days probably wouldn't have survived. And I think there's still a lot of truth to that. But of course, I've grown to respect it more. I've always had more respect for it for primarily their sci-fi concepts. Even this one, even though later on I think there's holes in it. But for this, if it would just ended here, then okay, you're fine. But that was the strengths of it in comparison to the current iterations of Star Trek, which is just bereft of sci-fi concept, really, and no real thought or attempt at all. But rewatching them just for themselves, the later current, iterations make these look like, classics or masterpieces. So, hey, that's one achievement for Kurtzman Trek, I suppose. Beyond that, though, yeah. So, all in all, there's problems here and there, but these aren't bad episodes, and they're kind of fun. And it was good that they gave Majel Barrett a character to play. It looks like she had a lot of fun playing that character, and an overall goodwill attempt at pursuing ideas. So, there you go. Haven and the big goodbye.